Hello, I'm Winston Peters, leader of New Zealand First, and thank you for the chance to address your residents. I know your numbers are 10,000, but there'll be many more who will be concerned about this message. You know, when times have got tough in the past economically, the first thing that governments of all persuasions have done is come for the young and the old. You'll remember those periods, and that is threatened again today because our economy is in serious trouble and we're spending money we haven't got, which we've borrowed, and somebody sooner or later has to pay the piper. This meeting, of course, is about ensuring that you get a fair go. But just to remind you, and not a history lesson, you can recall who brought in a surtax at one time where they were taking your benefit or your pension, or any way you want to describe it, and taxing it over 80%. Labor brought that policy in, a national promise to get rid of it, but got in and put it up to 92 cents in the dollar. 92 cents in the dollar. And then, collectively, they took the superannuation, which was guaranteed to be no lower than 65% of the net average wage, they took it down to 60%. Well, New Zealand First got a chance, and we did two things. We got rid of the surtax, and we took it back not to 65, but to 66% of the net average wage, and then brought in the gold card to massively extend the spending power of super. And on that score, with the gold card, we can do much, much more with an enthusiastic minister committed to doing that. But you know, you'll also remember that in 2002, and I know it's a long time ago, but it affects your industry, there was a report that said that your funding was probably between 20 and 22% too low. The other parties didn't do a thing about it, but between 2005 and 2008, we found an extra 580 million in two budgets to make sure your industry began to be properly funded again. I know that needs to be revisited, but they haven't. But we promised to look at that again in the same way as we made a promise and did something about the last time it was before you. Now, on the contracts that are governed by your Act, it clearly needs to be a case of demanding contracts that are fair, that are plain common sense in writing and are understandable, and that they have the degree of consumer protection, not only as you enter the contract, but as you are exiting it, as you are leaving it, for whatever the circumstances might be. Now, that should not be a work in progress without some fundamentally agreed principles right here, right now. We do not want a review that ends up, like so many, just being something that goes to the back of the Library of Parliament where nothing happens. So again, I'm saying in this election, there'll be all sorts of promises made to you by all sorts of parties, but please look at their record. Please ask yourself, what did they do when all these other past crises affecting the elderly have been visited to this country? I can tell you in 2023 that voting on their record is a compelling reason to be enrolled and to ensure that you're up to date with the promises that people make, but more importantly, their performance. You don't want to be like, a bad second-hand car salesperson. Plenty pre-sales talk, no after-sales service. I'm making a promise to you that's based on 30 years of doing our best to look after the elderly. And we'll do it again if we have your support in this election. And your support is critical in terms of the security long-term for the elderly people in this country getting to retire with dignity and grace in our land. Thank you.